Hello, everyone. In this video, we'll explain all the properties of the Outbound REST Adapter. The SKYVVA REST Adapter serves as a native, low-code integration engine within Salesforce, acting as a bridge between Salesforce and external applications. It begins by extracting standard Salesforce data, such as accounts, contacts, orders, or custom objects, before mapping and transforming that data into the structure required by the target system. Next, the adapter automatically generates standardized REST API payloads in JSON or XML format and securely sends them to the configured external REST API endpoint. Once a response is received, it processes the returned data, handles any errors or logging, and maps the results back into Salesforce. Throughout this streamlined workflow, the REST Adapter eliminates the need for custom Apex development by providing reusable, configurable interfaces that are accurate, secure, scalable, and designed to accelerate enterprise integrations with minimal coding. In this video, we'll explore the configuration properties of the SKYVVA REST Adapter and understand how each setting contributes to a successful REST integration. We'll walk through every property in the REST Adapter configuration, explaining its purpose, when to use it, and how it affects communication with external REST services. Along the way, we'll cover connection settings, authentication methods, request and response configurations, parameter handling, and other important runtime options. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have a clear understanding of how to configure the SKYVVA REST Adapter to build secure, flexible, and reliable integrations between Salesforce and external REST APIs. Now, let's start. Navigate to the Adapter tab and click the New button. You will see this pop-up screen. This screen is used to create an adapter in SKYVVA. Here, you can see the Information Adapter section. This section contains the adapter information. In the Name field, we need to set a unique name for the adapter. You can set the name based on your requirements. In this example, we entered the name REST property. The next field is Type. For the Type field, we support many types of adapters, such as AI, Agent File, Internet Drive, REST, SOAP, and more. However, in this video, we're focusing on REST Adapter, so we chose the REST Adapter. The next field is Direction. This field defines the flow direction of the adapter. In this video, we focus on the Outbound adapter, so the default screen selected is Outbound. When we choose Outbound, it means that Salesforce or SKYVVA needs to send data to an external system. In this scenario, SKYVVA acts as the sender, while the external application acts as the receiver. The Status field. For this field, we have two options, active and inactive. When we select active, it means the adapter is enabled. When we select inactive, it means the adapter is disabled. The description is used for optional notes about the adapter. Now, let's look at the Properties Adapter section. The first property of the adapter is Authentication Type. The Authentication Type field defines how SKYVVA authenticates with the target REST API before sending or receiving data. You can see that the pick list supports 5 options, such as Basic, Certificate, OAuth 2.0, API Key, and Salesforce Authentication Provider. For basic authentication, we use this method when the target API requires a username and password to authenticate. SKYVVA sends these credentials in the HTTP authorization header with every request. When you select Basic Authentication, the username and password fields will appear. You can enter the credentials obtained from your target API, which are used to authenticate your connection before sending any requests. As an example, you can see how the username and password fields look inside WireMock. Keep in mind that the exact credentials required will depend entirely on the specific API you are integrating with. The certificate authentication type uses mutual TLS, where both SKYVVA and the external REST service verify each other using digital certificates before any data is exchanged. The server presents its SSL certificate, SKYVVA validates it, and then SKYVVA sends its own client certificate for verification. Once both certificates are trusted, a secure connection is established, and the REST request is processed. This method provides a high level of security and is commonly used in enterprise, banking, and government integrations. We use OAuth 2.0 when the target API requires a secure access token instead of a traditional username and password. Before making the main API call, SKYVVA first requests an access token from the authorization server and then attaches that token to all subsequent API requests. When you select OAuth 2.0 authentication, the adapter displays the OAuth 2.0 flow property. This field defines the exact mechanism SKYVVA uses to obtain the access token before calling the target REST API. As you can see, the available authentication types in the pick list are username, password, credential, client credentials, authorization code, and authorization code with PKC. The username, password, credential authentication type, we use this option when the API requires a username and password to obtain an access token. As you can see, the adapter displays the username, password, OAuth 2.0 client ID, and OAuth 2.0 client secret fields. We have already explained the username and password fields. For the OAuth 2.0 client ID and OAuth 2.0 client secret, you can obtain these values from the API provider or the system you are integrating with. For the client credential authentication type, we use this option when the integration is performed between systems and no user login is required. SKYVVA uses the client ID and client secret to obtain an access token before calling the API. You can also see that it displays the OAuth 2.0 client ID and OAuth 2.0 client secret fields, which we have already explained, and has some properties such as scope or state, depending on whether your API requires it or not. The authorization code flow securely authenticates users through an OAuth authorization server. After the user grants permission, SKYVVA receives an authorization code and exchanges it, along with its client credentials, for an access token. This token is then used to securely access the external REST API. The last option is the authorization code with PKC flow, which enhances OAuth security by replacing the client secret with a temporary code verifier and code challenge. After the user authorizes access, SKYVVA proves its identity using the code verifier before receiving an access token. This provides stronger protection against authorization code interception and is the recommended approach for modern OAuth integrations. Now, let's go back to the authentication type field. We use API key authentication when the target API requires a unique API key to identify and authorize the application. The key is typically passed along within the request. When you choose this authentication type, the adapter will display three fields: API key name, API key value, and API key add to. API key name. This field defines the key parameter's name, it depending entirely on the specific requirements of the API you are using. API key value. This is where you enter the actual secret API key provided by your external service. This value is used to securely authenticate your requests. API key add to. This field determines where the API key will be attached to the request. By default, it is set to header, meaning the key is sent inside the HTTP request headers. The alternative option is query params, which appends the key directly to the URL as a query string parameter, depending on the requirements of your target API system. Next, the Salesforce Authentication Provider, Auth Provider, is a Salesforce feature that integrates with an external OAuth 2.0 identity provider. It manages the complete authentication process, including user authorization, token retrieval, and automatic token refresh. When selected in the SKYVVA REST Adapter, the adapter simply uses the configured auth provider to obtain a valid access token before calling the external REST API. Currently, for example, We are using the basic authentication type and entering the user and password. The next property is operation, which defines which HTTP method the REST adapter uses when communicating with an external API. Get, used to retrieve data. Post, used to create new data. Put, used to replace an existing resource. Head, used to retrieve headers only. Delete, used to remove data. Patch, used to partially update data. Modify selected fields only. Options, used to discover supported methods. It checks API capabilities and CLRS support. For the get operation, we have the function for the pagination. If the API needs a set index property when it is calling an API endpoint that returns a complex list or array of nested data, and your system needs to target one specific position in that list. For this function, we will explain in a separate video. The next property is the API service endpoint URL. The API service endpoint URL defines the target REST service that the REST adapter invokes. It represents the base URL of the external API and serves as the destination for all requests initiated. As an example, we are using API service endpoint of the WireMock. Here is the API endpoint URL obtained from the WireMock API. The next property is header. The header property specifies the HTTP headers that the REST adapter includes when sending requests to an external REST service. Headers provide additional metadata required by the target API, such as authentication credentials, content types, accepted response formats, and custom values. The next property is URL path parameter. The URL path parameter property allows the agent REST adapter to append dynamic values to the endpoint path. Path parameters are commonly used to identify a specific resource within the external system. The next property is URL query parameter. The URL query parameter property allows the agent REST adapter to add parameters after the question mark character in the URL. Query parameters are typically used for filtering, searching, sorting, or pagination. The next property is request format. The request format property specifies how the REST adapter serializes the request payload before sending it to the external REST service. The payload format must match the format expected by the target API. It supports 5 options: XML, JSON, form data, XWWW form URL encoded, and test/CSV. You can choose the format based on your configuration. In this example, we use the JSON format. The next property is response format. The response format property specifies the expected response format returned by the external REST service. It supports 3 options: XML, JSON, and test/CSV. You can choose the format based on your configuration. In this example, we use the JSON format. The next property is Salesforce ID handling. This property controls how Salesforce record IDs are managed by the REST adapter during request and response processing. As you can see, the default value displayed on the screen is none. The REST adapter does not add Salesforce record IDs to the response. The payload only contains standard API data. Another option is return Salesforce ID into the response. The adapter includes the Salesforce record ID in the final response payload, allowing external systems to store or reference that ID for future transactions. There are additional properties available, such as client certificate name, client certificate password, custom processing class, and custom authentication class. We use these settings whenever an external API requires a secure certificate or a custom Apex class to process the integration. The next property is timeout. The timeout property specifies the maximum time, in milliseconds, that the REST adapter waits for a response from the external REST service before terminating the request. If the response is not received within the configured time, the request fails with a timeout error. In the adapter properties, you will find an Add New button. This allows you to add any additional properties required for your adapter configuration. In the name column, select a property from the pick list and then enter the matching value required by your external API. This section allows you to manually add any REST adapter properties that are not already pre-configured on the screen. Once you've configured the REST adapter with the external API, you can click Save to store your configuration. Here is the REST adapter after being saved. Next, we explain the actions on the screen. Where to use action. It is used to view the interface that is linked with that adapter. Ping connection action, used to test the connectivity to the API service URL. View action, used to view the current configuration of the adapter. Edit action, used to update or modify the adapter configuration. Delete action, used to delete the adapter from the system. Test active action, used to test a live request from the adapter to the external API. On the test connection screen, you can see your adapter's configuration details alongside the test section itself. This allows you to verify if the REST API safely connects to the external system and returns the correct response. You can also paste an example request body to test your payload. Once the test is finished, the live API response will appear right here on the screen. To summarize, the SKYVVA REST Adapter provides a powerful, low-code solution for integrating Salesforce with external REST APIs. The adapter acts as a bridge between Salesforce and external applications. It securely retrieves Salesforce data, transforms it into the required API format, sends requests using multiple authentication methods, and processes the responses before returning the results to Salesforce. With support for flexible request and response handling, real-time data exchange, and custom Apex processing classes, the REST Adapter can easily adapt to both simple integrations and complex enterprise business requirements. By combining security, scalability, and extensibility into a single low-code solution, the SKYVVA REST Adapter enables organizations to build reliable, maintainable, and efficient REST integrations with less development effort. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.